A P to the V to the E production presents with James and Blue.
So, what do you think about old Ant-Man?
Man, I love Paul Rudd. He's hilarious.
He is hilarious.
They did a really good job of taking a character that I don't think anybody's ever cared about. Like, just straight out, like,
Yeah, I think he's just always been like a side guy. He's in the comic book somewhere, but
well, so they did a really good job sidestepping like Hank Pym, right? Like, the way they handled Hank Pym was really good. So Hank Pym has the stigma that hangs over his head. There was one storyline 40 years ago.
Oh, okay. What's this?
Where he slaps the Wasp. He like slaps Janet Van Dyne.
While she's a wasp or while she's regular woman?
Well, I know it just in general, he's like a wife beater. He gets drunk alive and beats his wife.
Oh, what?
Yeah. And that's like the story. And then it becomes like this thing where he ends up like turning evil and becoming Yellow Jacket.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he becomes like a villain for a while, sort of thing. And then he was like, oh no, I'm not really a villain. But then like everybody hates him because they're like, yeah, you hit women, you know?
Yeah.
And so when they announced the Ant-Man movie, everybody was like, well, how are they going to handle that? Like, they specifically, like...
Everybody just focuses on that.
Focus on that. Like, what are they going to do about
it?
Like,
don't they still make Ant-Man comic books? Or?
Oh, yeah, totally, with Scott Lang. But everybody was like, oh, it's got to be Hank Pym, and he's going to hit women. And like, that was, like, what they focused on. And so, like, Marvel was like, no, we're going to do Scott Lang. We're going to have Hank Pym, but he's going to be old and, like, a mentor.
Okay.
And we're just going to avoid that altogether.
Right.
Like, okay, hey, that's
he can't slap her if she's been in the quantum realm.
Yeah, you know, we're just gonna handle it that way. And I like that they handled that.
Oh yeah,
but,
yeah.
Like,
cause I never got that impression of
no, it was a really good like sidestep there. That said, like Paul Rudd is like great as Scott Lang. He's the comedic like relief. This is the first like really comedic movie other than like Guardians of the Galaxy. Like Guardians of the Galaxy hit. And then after Ant-Man, there starts to be like this comedic relief like thread through all of the MCU.
Yeah, like they realized that if we make these movies funny, then it'll sell to more people.
Yeah. We have to have action and funny. And Ant-Man's always a little bit on the funnier side.
I would say it's more the comedy than the action.
So
movie.
This one was really creative, like super creative. Like they were doing stuff that I had never thought about doing with like shrinking and growing objects and stuff like that. And that's impressive for someone who's been reading comic books for nearly 40 years.
Like what part are you talking about? Like, are you talking about like the train scene?
Well, yeah, well, like the whole like battle on the train scene is fantastic.
Okay.
And I love how like they're showing us all epic, and then they like back up, and it's just like,
yeah, that was pretty great. Yeah,
you know, or like when they're driving down the street and they're just like throwing the toys out, and then the toys are expanding to like life size and stuff. Like, this is really creative uses of the power, and that like were really visual. Like they're really good visualizations. They did a great job of like catching Corey, what's his name, at the tail end of his career before everybody kind of canceled him.
No, that's true.
Yeah, because he was like on the strain and he was like, oh, hey, we really love this guy. And then he was on Ant-Man and they're like, that guy's an asshole. But he's the villain, so we can hate him. And then like you never saw him again.
Yeah, you're right. I never have seen him.
Yeah, it was because cancel culture. He was a huge asshole and talked shit to a bunch of people. And
did he? I don't really know much about that actor, so.
There's a reason for that. So, but he was a good villain. He played a good Yellow Jacket.
Yeah.
And of course, there's like, you know, the quirky sidekick with like the great recaps of everything.
Oh yeah, that was funny though.
Yeah, it becomes like a signature. Like I've heard one of the rumors I've heard is that he's going to be like the new Stan Lee that shows up in every movie. Like he's going to come in and do like
do
a recap.
Well, that might get a little old.
Yeah, see, that's what I
because that's not the same thing as Stan Lee.
But it's also like a rumor, you know.
Oh yeah.
I put more credit to the Deadpool rumor. I think that's more likely.
And I think, that'd be more clever too.
Yeah, just like have randomly Deadpool show up in back scenes and stuff. I'd give Ant-Man 6.
6?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and give Ant-Man. Let me see what I got here. I'm gonna give it. I mean, I liked Ant-Man, but I did like Guardian of the Galaxy better than Ant-Man, so I'm gonna give it 11.
What do you think about this one?
I know a lot of people love Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought it was really entertaining. I thought it was weird that they went with. It was really strange because this was like the first time that they're like, all right, we're gonna take like this B title,
Right.
and like pull it up out of the dirt, and we're gonna like do this. And not only that, but like we hadn't had like any galactic real stories yet, other than Avengers. So like to start like exploring that with the Guardians of the Galaxy as opposed to like Silver Surfer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Or just current characters. They're going to bring a whole new batch of
yeah,
characters.
like bring in the Fantastic Four and have them go explore space. Like there's a lot of different ways of bringing Captain Marvel early. But no, they went with Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought it was really well casted. It was really entertaining. It was funny. But again, it was one of those things that didn't really bring a whole lot to the storyline other than here's another Infinity Stone.
Yeah, at this point, a lot of these stories are starting to be like that, where they're kind of their own individual thing, except for Infinity Stone.
Yeah, it's like we're not really like pushing the story any further or anything. So like Guardians of the Galaxy, I'd probably put it like a 9.
9?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it was entertaining.
Yep.
And like I mean everybody loved the soundtrack. That was like a nice little gimmick.
Yep.
They handled the Groot character really well, like Vin Diesel, like with his variations.
Yeah, that was real unusual to me because I didn't really know much about Guardians of the Galaxy, and then seeing him just saying the same thing.
Yeah.
But then, what's his name? Oh, Raccoon can understand him and stuff like that. But then I kind of got why he understand him. He was more understanding his afflictions and how he was saying the words.
Yeah.
The words, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
It's kind of like how you like, you know, not to like diminish Groot, but it's like how you understand like what your dog wants and stuff. Like,
Yep.
You understand that, you know, eventually you just learn it to the point.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. And James Gunn is a fantastic director. It was really hilarious and well done.
I think I got this one at 10 for right now. I might move it up too.
Yeah.
But I did like Guardians of the Galaxy, and of course I'm a sucker for space stuff. So anytime they go out in space, it's already like a positive for me.
All of like the 80s references
Yeah.
are really cool.
All the synth music and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was like 80s space. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
Which is like my favorite genre of space.
There was definitely a lot of fun stuff going on there.
It gave me like a little bit like Total Recall vibes to it or something like that. You know, when they went to nowhere and stuff like that, that was pretty cool. I like that. So,
That was fantastic because that was like, you know, the floating celestial head. And I was like, oh, the Celestials. That's like a super hard.
Well, I'm gonna leave it at 10 for right now, but you know, that was a good one.
Yeah.
So we got Spider-Man.
So yeah, you know, we've
What's this one called? The
Homecoming?
Homecoming. That's right. I like how they keep the home theme going in all their titles of Spider-Man.
and Spider-Man Homecoming. It was filmed in the UK, but it was like they're supposed to be in New York,
Right.
right? And the actor who played Spider-Man was from the UK, so he would literally go home. And then in Far From Home, it was reversed.
Yeah. Why'd they do that?
I don't know. But he just thought it was really weird that the title was like, hey, you know, this matched what I do.
Oh, yeah.
So, as a Spider-Man movie, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. It was better than The Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield, and it was better than Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
Ooh,
I know
that's a big one right there.
dude, a lot of people say...
Spider-Man 2?
Okay, so Spider-Man 2 with Alfred Molina is choice. like, dude, that is beautiful.
Yep.
But we have to admit that Tobey Maguire looks like a 40-year-old man running around in spandex in that movie.
I definitely admit it, but the people that love that movie will not admit that.
I know, they really won't. It's a fantastic dude, like in terms of like...
The whole high school looked old. Who was the guy that was the bully fighting him?
Oh yeah, Flash, like Thompson.
Yeah, he was old as hell too.
Yeah, he looked like he had to go to like, you know, his job at an attorney firm. Like, oh, I'm a CPA, but I also go to high school.
Oh yeah, they all did look. That was still in the age where they were casting adults as high school.
Yeah, no, it did not work well.
But
Like, I mean, like when we look at the grand scheme of like all comic book movies as a whole, like Spider-Man 2 was a very pivotal movie.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. But like, if we're gonna stack it up, like in terms of like, I'm a Spider-Man fan, I love Spider-Man. Like,
Yeah.
which one like serves like the closest to the Peter Parker Spider-Man character? It's Spider-Man Homecoming, dude.
Yeah,
Like,
I think so by far.
like Homecoming is something closer to that. I know a lot of people are like, oh, he's Tony Stark Jr. I'm like, No, that kind of makes sense because like he does like study under like so in the comic books he hangs out with Reed Richards a lot, you know.
Oh, okay.
And then after Reed Richards, he hangs out with Tony Stark for a while. And then during the Civil War storyline, he's actually like Tony Stark's assistant. You know, so like this is all like, you know, like it jives with what happens in the comic.
They're not just pulling this out of thin air.
No,
They're taking stories and stuff like that, and information there.
No, it totally makes sense. And like even when like in Far From Home, when he gets like, you know, Edith and he has like certain control over like Stark's like technology and stuff, like there's a similarity when he gets like in the comic books, he takes over Horizon Labs and he gets his own like, you know, he becomes a scientist who starts growing his own stuff and he has a machine that makes costumes. So it's a different way of getting him the same tools that he's already had.
Yeah, and I thought it was a clever way because they wanted to keep the movies tied together, and this was a nice little clever. Of course, Tony Stark got all the technology. He loves making suits.
And then like Michael Keaton was a really good Vulture.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It was a really, really solid casting. So, I mean, like
This first movie, I think I actually got scared in for a second. When that scene where he's questioning them in the car, and then they're going on a prom date or something. That's the first time I was really worried for a character on screen, and I actually had that feeling in me.
I know. I almost got kicked out of the theater because he turned around and he was like, "Do you know who I am?" And I was like, I just went, "I'm Batman." And like the whole theater like erupted laughing, and then somebody reported me.
Oh,
I was like, "Oh, jerks." I'm a Spidey fan at heart, and I have watched Homecoming more than any other MCU movie.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, like it totally speaks to me. But like objectively, I could speak to it as a movie and be like, it did a lot, but there are other movies that did more.
Yeah.
You know, and they did. But there were some really good scenes in there.
Yeah, and I like to think of it like Spider-Man to me is like an intro movie, and like out of all the intro movies, that Spider-Man one was definitely a great one to introduce the character. Where some of these intro movies are,
they had the best way of handling a character origin that's been told to death.
Yep.
I love that cutscene. So you got bit by a spider? Got bit by a spider. And he just kind of shrugged.
and then he just like bad things happened to my uncle. You didn't have to go through the whole scene.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about it. Like, you really want to know? There's 2 other movies out there you can go watch. They have 45 minutes dedicated
That's
to just
a smart
that.
way of doing it too. Is like if you really want to know, there's older movies that'll tell that story.
I really hope, like, that's how I want them to introduce the Fantastic Four, is that in, like, one of these upcoming movies, we have, like, a news report in the background about the Fantastic Four returning back from space.
Yep.
You know, and, like they encountered some problems with cosmic rays. And their origin be handled in the background so that when, like, we actually get a Fantastic Four movie, it starts with them as an established team in the Baxter building.
This is why I think they're
going
going to do that, is because of WandaVision. Because remember in WandaVision, when they were talking to the director, he said, and he was talking to, what was the black girl's name? I can't remember her name.
Monica Rambeau.
Monica. And remember, he was saying, we lost astronauts in space during the snap. And we've lost them. We lost track of them.
What are the numbers for the astronaut training program?
Dismal. Lost half my personnel on the blip, and half of those remaining have lost their nerve.
Oh.
he specifically says that.
Oh.
So that made me think, that's why people started thinking that he was going to show up, somebody in fact.
That's a solid, that's a good reference.
Yeah, but he said that, and I was like, oh, they're going to come back to that.
Yeah.
They're going to just show up, just like you said. They're just going to show up because they're going to find their way back. But now they're going to be the Fantastic Four.
So yeah, Captain America, the first Avenger, I absolutely loved. My dad's favorite superhero is Captain America.
Oh, okay.
Like, I grew up like inundated in the church and religion of Captain America. You know, he had a collection of Captain America merchandise that there was like a small shrine with like a banner, and I'm talking like cups and frisbees, and every action
Kind of like
figure.
how sports fans do with sports memorabilia.
Exactly like that, but for like Captain America, dude. So to see Captain, and then like past that, like I had the Captain America cartoon from like the 60s, with like the stupid like when Captain America throws his mighty
Yeah, I remember
shield.
that, yeah.
It was so horrible. And then there was like the Roger Corman Captain America movie from like the 70s where he's on a motorcycle.
I don't think I've seen that one. No.
There's a like a Dolph Lundgren one from like the late 80s, early 90s that was really, really
Oh,
bad.
I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen any Captain America movie except for when Marvel started doing that one.
Dude, there's some really bad ones. So to see Captain America done right, and like, I was really worried when they got Chris Evans.
Yeah, because Chris Evans, I think the last movie I seen him in before this was Loser.
So Chris Evans, before this, he was, Human Torch in the Fantastic Four.
Oh yeah, I knew he was that.
And then he was also in Not Another Teen Movie.
Oh, was he? That's right.
He was like
yeah,
he's the main jock.
Yeah,
and so like I was really concerned about this guy being Captain America. He was also like the 4th pick.
Was he?
Yeah, like
I wonder who they picked. Do you know who they picked?
Yeah,
from?
so John Krasinski.
Wow.
Was the actual original. Yeah, Jim from The Office was the original.
Well, I
first
guess
pick.
so, man. He's got such a big structure.
When you see like Tom Clancy, like you're like, oh, yeah, okay, I can kind of see where they're going with this. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so he was the original first pick. Then they went to Jensen Ackles, and Jensen Ackles was like, "No, I can't do that. That's Dean from Supernatural."
Oh, okay.
Then they talked to Matt Damon. Then they went back to Jensen Ackles again, and they're like, I got mad respect for Jensen Ackles, right?
Why wouldn't he not want to do that? That seems like a big step up.
So, it is, right?
Yeah.
But Supernatural had just wrapped up season 5, right? And that was the end of the Supernatural contract. Mm-hmm. And he had negotiated another 5-year contract for not just him and Jared Padalecki, but the entire staff of Supernatural.
Oh, okay. So he just had commitments.
Yeah, so he had used this deal to leverage that deal. And let's be real, dude, 15 seasons of Supernatural.
He used the fact that they wanted him for Captain America to, hey, you're right. Supernatural lasted 15 years.
15 seasons. That's what I'm saying. That's a lot of jobs that he created and kept going for all that time. And not to mention, the fandom, arguably, just as big as the MCU.
Yeah.
Especially
at that time.
Yeah, exactly.
Might have been, the Supernatural might have been more.
At the time, the Avengers hadn't even come out yet. Yeah. So, the MCU hasn't really, made its foothold yet. But Supernatural was, carrying the CW.
Yes.
There was nothing else on.
I remember watching any show around then when the early parts.
So they finally came and settled on Chris Evans, and Chris Evans is like, all right, yeah, no, I'll definitely do it. And he bulked up and he delivered. The man freaking brought it, dude. I can't imagine anybody else as Captain America now. He nailed the role.
Not Steve Rogers. He's the only Steve Rogers.
No, and then the guy that got to direct it is the same guy who did The Wolfman. So I was like, well, it's going to be a period piece. And they did a really good job of making it that World War II kind of era feel, where they had it's that era specific patriotism. It's not the overall patriotism, but that, radio announcer, let's go punch a Nazi in the face level of patriotism. And they really captured that ambiance through the entire movie. And then the last 10 minutes, you get that jolt where he gets transported to the future and he's in the present.
And that was cool too.
Yeah, and they did a really good job of changing up the feel and making him feel like a stranger in a strange land. And it was, all in all, it was a fantastic movie. Captain America ranks in my my top 5.
Okay.
I would probably give it a 5.
All right. And I'm right behind you. I got it at a 6. Yeah. And I like Captain America. I remember that might be one of the ones I've watched the most, because when it came out, I watched it a ton of times over and over. When it came out on DVD and stuff, I just kept on watching that movie because it was good. It was funny. I like how they had the propaganda stuff, how they fit his old costume in there and everything, and it was real clever.
And him and Haley Atwell have really good chemistry, a lot better than Gwyneth Paltrow and Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Their chemistry worked really well with each other. Stanley Tucci, I love anything that guy's in.
I kind of wish we got more of his squad.
Yeah, Hugo Weaving is such a fantastic Red Skull.
So Infinity War for me is my number 2. I really dig that one.
I was I'd give it a solid 7, man. This is the culmination of everything. This is everything coming together. My problem with it was, one, it was long as fuck.
Oh, see, the length didn't bother me any, but I guess I noticed I'm the type of person that can watch a 3 to 4 hour movie and not bother me.
It depends on the movie. I just got done watching the director's cuts of The Lord of the Rings, and I had no problem sitting through 3.5 hours of that. For some reason, Infinity War is just long.
It just feels long.
It just feels long. It's just there's a lot going on.
There is a lot.
Halfway through, I'm man, I need a cigarette.
It's super action packed because every scene is a major fight scene.
Yeah.
It's just there's hardly any There's a couple of sit down and talk scenes, but for the most part, it's just.
There's some really good like story development, and for it coming together as a good culmination, that was great. The snap, for the moment when you're in the theater and you're in the moment and he makes the snap, you're like, oh yeah, you're like, oh my god, dude, like that was like such a. Now, as soon as you walked out and started thinking about it, you're like, hang on, that is not a great solution to anything.
Well, but I felt like it was good because I knew they were coming out with the part 2.
Yeah.
And before they even changed the names, they used to call them Avengers 1 and 2. And so I just knew.
It was a really big surprise. The whole like snap was just like a big surprise that half the universe is gone. It raised a bunch of questions. It definitely re-engaged people who were starting to get stale in the universe. Who were starting to like, okay, superhero movies are starting to get a bit much.
The theater I was in, I heard some kids cry.
I mean, it was a crazy scene. So it was solid. It was really great, but it's also incredibly codependent on previous stories. So like, if you're taking your spouse who never really watches these movies,
yeah,
you're gonna be spending half the movie answering questions.
Yeah.
Who's that person? Why are they doing that? Well, why are they doing this? And you're like,
yeah, but what if you're just rating it just for yourself? This is your list.
yeah, I'd still give it like a 7.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and so this is a great movie. I saw some stuff in this movie that I didn't even think of. Like the Iron Man suit, that was amazing to me. Of how he had like the whole liquid suit. I don't remember reading Iron Man where he had a suit like that. I'm sure it's probably in the comic books, but I just don't remember seeing that. And then I like the whole scene of Thanos fighting on the Titan planet, and then Doctor Strange letting loose. Oh, yeah. I wish Doctor Strange, they kind of let him go a little bit more, but what he did was pretty amazing.
That's pretty good stuff.
And then this movie has probably brought some of the biggest highs and lows and like feels too. Like I was so pissed off when Star-Lord hit Thanos and they couldn't get the glove off, to the point where like that's one scene made me almost hate this movie. and then I thought about it, I was like, well, I see, must have been right, because that's exactly what they wanted. They wanted us to be angry about the decision, like it's an irrational decision.
A lot of the movie to me like felt like watching like anime pacing. You know, like we're gonna like show this guy fight a big bad, and now this big bad is gonna like defeat the good big bad.
Yeah, it was like a versus. It was like a versus battle of different.
It really
characters.
was, and like so it was like. It was less of like watching a movie and more like watching somebody play Avengers Street Fighter Edition.
To me, this was like the most powerful version of the Avengers. They were letting loose. All of them were. Like even War Machine, when like he.
Oh yeah, no, everybody went
so that's what was impressive to me, is like this was like a gigantic feat of all these superheroes, and they still made it, to me, where it didn't feel like the villains were like too wimpy. Like they still had a chance. They still, and obviously they did.
Well, I mean, like the other thing is like, let's say you're like binging these movies. You're like, I'm gonna watch them all, one movie a day, sort of thing, right? Mm-hmm. Right about now, when you start hitting Infinity War, you're starting to get like movie fatigue.
Yeah.
You're like, man, I've watched a lot of these, and like, could have done without Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Mm-hmm. I could have done without Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
And I could have, you know what I mean? Like, that's where this movie starts. Like, I feel like I would have ranked it higher if we didn't have these other fillers back there. But, you know, because of where it comes in, like, even like going and watching it as a standalone, I still feel really fatigued watching it.
Yeah, this movie is definitely a movie that requires you to watch the other ones, because they don't do no backstory. You got to know who these characters are. You got to know how their quirks are and how they feel and stuff like that. Like, they're just, that's part of the reason why I like it, because almost all these movies, you always got to go into some history, somebody in the past doing something. This was just like a straightforward. We're just going forward.
If you were looking for inspiration to go back and rewatch them, watch this movie and you'll be like, oh man, I forgot about this scene in this movie and this. And you'll turn this shit off to go turn on those ones.
I'll still watch it, because I just like the battles. I like the fight scenes, and I like all the. They got tons of CGI, but the CGI is done really well in that one. I don't know. I just like the Infinity War. That's definitely. But I could tell by my ranking, I'm more of the action-y when it comes to the comic books. I like the action quite a bit.
I like a good even balance.
Yep.